Hello everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, what kind of video is this? Why has this all got an image or whatever you? Well, that's because this video is going to be about something other than gaming and such like that. It's going to be about my mental illness. Reason why I say my mental illness rather than mental illness as a whole, because I could go into a whole subject about mental illness and it would just be like no difference than what most other people have put out. I'm just going to explain about how my mental illness works and how it's affected me and such. And just for the records, and so you guys know, this is not me looking for pity or looking for people to give it, oh my gosh, you're suffering with this and all that lot. Don't feel it's anything like that. It's more of me actually explaining a bit more about my mental illness, but at the same time, hoping to inspire others how to deal with their own variants. I know every mental illness is a different thing and everyone suffers differently, and I know that a lot of the things I'm going to be saying is going to be like, oh yeah, that's easier said than done, which I agree. But anyway, let's get on to the topic now. Yeah, now as you know, I'm going to be talking about my mental illnesses. The main mental illness I suffer with, that I've been diagnosed with, is OCD, which means obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, a lot of people don't know much about this. Many people think, oh, OCD involves just cleaning or just one specific thing and such and such and such, because it's got that stereotypical feel to it. Now, granted, originally my OCD was cleaning a long time ago when I was very young. Now it's before I even knew what OCD was. But however, there are different variations of OCD, and it's not just cleaning. It also could be to do with intrusive thoughts in your head or doing certain rituals and such like that. And when I say rituals, I mean like doing certain things every day and such like that. And when I say doing certain things, where with normal people, they'd be doing that specific task and then that'd be it. Where with someone who suffers OCD, they'll have to do that specific task not just once, but a lot more, or sometimes they'll go through a routine of where they had to do it more than once. But in my case, my form of OCD is that to do with my mind, where I get a lot of intrusive thoughts, where it makes me believe that I've done something really badly wrong, even though I haven't done anything wrong and such that, but it makes me believe that I've done something really horribly wrong. Like, for example, we could say, oh, do you remember that time when you actually bet up that person or hurt that person? Even though I never hurt that person, never would dream of hurting that person. I mean, yeah, back in my childhood, I did hurt a few people, but that was out of self-defense. Or when I was 18, and I did hurt my sister because I was going through a few issues of my own and such like that. But when I say hurt, I don't mean as in like, oh yeah, I literally bet them to their black and blue or done something that's illegal, if you get my drift. No, it's only just like a few like stupid little, like the stupid little punches and kickies and such like that. You know, that kind of sort of fighting kind of sort of thing. That kind of hurt. But yeah, it makes me think that, and even believe that I've actually done certain things. It even puts false images in my head, a false reality in my head, making me believe that I've actually been and done these certain things, even though I know in my mind it's like, no, I haven't done these things. It's all in my head. This is a lie, but yet it's feels so real. It feels so true, and in my mind, it's like a false imprint in my mind, like of a false memory that where I've actually been to a certain specific point in time, like it could be a certain area that I'm familiar with, and done something to some random person who I don't even know. Or it would actually say to me that I'm looking at a person in real life in such a funny way that it is wrong. And then even though that I'm not, I'm just generally just going about my business, going down to the shop and such. So if you could like, why did you look at that person that way? What are you doing? Da 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 da. And yes, I do hear a voice that says that. Now I'll get round to that voice in a bit because that's another subject I like to talk about. But yeah, it generally is like nightmare fuel all for me. It sets me up for a lot of horrible things, and it is thanks to this that I am not able to work because of it. Now, you're probably wondering, how the hell does something like OCD affect one's ability to work? Well, let's just put it this way. It's very hard to describe, and very hard to explain, really, how it actually affects one in that way and how it prevents one from working in it. But what it does, it affects the mind so much that it stops the person doing specific functions, even though they want to do certain functions and such. Like, for example, there's a pen on the side. I've been told to pick it up. I know I should pick it up. Usually it would take me about 30 seconds to pick it up, or even less, 10 seconds to pick it up. Not even that. But because there's so much going on in my mind, it doesn't register to pick up that pen. It's so much focused on what's going on in my mind, it actually prevents me from actually picking up that pen, and it could take a lot longer to pick up that pen than what it should. Now you're probably thinking, alright, so it takes you a little longer. Okay, that's no big deal. Well, it's not just that it takes a lot longer, it also takes a hell of a lot out of a person in general. Not just me, but out of a person. Because it's a whole big thought process. It's a whole big hit on a person's emotions, because it hits a person's emotions in so much way that it creates a negative field on that person, and it actually just puts that person's mood into kind of like a doom and gloom kind of mood, even a very depressed mood where they just don't want to function anymore, and it's very hard. And they don't mean to do that, and I say this from my own experience. I don't mean to do it, because the worst case scenario I went in. This is when I was working at the time, because before I even knew what my mental illness was, or that I was aware that I had mental illness at the time. This was back in 2003 when I was working in the factory with my uncle. The one thing I did was, and this is only the worst case scenario, was I used to shut down on people. I never would talk or acknowledge so much. It was just blank, and that's what it was in my mind. It was just blank, but all I could feel was this horrible, depressing emotion in me, and it was one of those horrible things I went through, and I still go through that even to this day. And in 2006 it got to the point where it got really bad. I couldn't actually go out so much because my anxiety was going off through the roof, and I never experienced anxiety issues before, and suddenly in 2006 it just kicked off. And I feel that my anxiety is related to what's going on in my head. And that also added and contributed to my mental illness as such, adding to the whole reason I couldn't work and such like that. And so I actually spoke to the people at my job centre. I'm not sure what you call them in your countries, but these are the people that actually give out jobs, help you look for work and all that stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what you call them in your country, but in the UK we call them job centres. And I spoke to the lady who actually was helping me. I said to her, look, I'm having some serious problems here. I know I'm meant to be going to this course and that, but I'm having some serious problems here. I don't know what's going on here. And I actually explained through it because my head was going through a confused state. I knew where I was roughly, but my head was sort of like, it was like in another world basically. It felt absolutely terrible. It even felt terrifying as well. And it got to the point where I couldn't even go out by myself, and I had to have my dad at that point in time to help me and such. And let me just say this, he had been a very big help in those times, and he still continued on to be that big help all the way through, even when he himself was suffering from his back issues. And even in 2016 when he was when he had the dreaded C word, cancer, and he still continued on helping me out and such like that. And I would definitely say that I do owe a great deal to him, and that's why I speak highly of him, and that's why you hear me speak a lot about him, because he is literally both my idol and hero. But getting back on point, yeah, I went to the whole job centre thing, explained to them how it was going through my head, how it made me feel on that, and they said, right, take a few moments off sick and such like that, while you're out, go see your GP. So I saw my doctor and such, and he, at the time, the doctor was he at the time, And he's one of the best doctors to me. He was and such, and because he actually helped my dad out and such. And I actually spoke to him and such, and I told him what was going on, and he said, "Well, I'm not entirely sure exactly what the problem is, but all I can say is take a few of these medications to calm my anxiety down and such, and etc." So I did, but it wasn't actually calming the things in my head down. It wasn't calming my anxiety down. I mean, sure, it was making me feel more sleepy and such like that, but it wasn't actually helping the situation. So I went back to him, told him about it, and it got to the point where was saying, "Well, what do you want me to do about it?" And I went, "Well, you're the doctor, cure me." That's what I basically said, because I got frustrated as well, and I don't usually get frustrated, but I'm usually a patient person, but at that point in time, I was at the point of desperation. I needed help. And that's when he said, "Right, I'm going to let you see one of our counsellors." And when I saw one of them, she done her own little diagnosis on me and said, "Have you actually heard of OCD?" And I was like, "What is OCD? Never heard of it." And she said, "Obsessive compulsive disorder." And she went into the whole explanation of what it was. And that's when things started to click for me, because I thought to myself, I was just suffering from my illness, my problems just recently. Because I was aware I was having some problems in my head, but I never knew what it was. I never knew that it was OCD and that. I just thought it was just, a blip that I was going through and such like I usually would do when I was young. Because when I was young, I used to go through these blip stages where I would actually talk to myself, repeat to myself, even often apologise for something I didn't do. Because I felt that I needed to apologise, because I felt I was hurting something or someone and such. I would even wash my hands more often than that. Now, that's the OCD that people think what OCD is at times. And when the lady explained to me what it was all about, that there were different variations of OCD. There was obviously the cleaning one where you had to be clean. There were also the ones that you overthink. There was other ones. It's all to do with what you do and such like that. Like if you do a certain thing more than once, let's say for example you grab a controller and you just pick it up. Yeah, I've got the controller right now in my hand, believe it or not, and I'm actually using it as like a prop for myself to demonstrate to myself. But anyway, get back on point. You could grab a controller and then you could put it down and then grab it again, put it down, grab it again, put it. It's like a repetitive routine, and that's one of the examples of OCD. I mean, again, there is like multiple variations of like OCD, and believe it or not, it can be quite a serious thing at times. And I never thought of it as a serious thing. I used to think, nah, it's just one of those things that people go through. It's a thing. And then when I got hit by it, it's like, okay, so it's a lot more serious than I thought. Because when I was told stories about how people would, especially those who would clean a lot, would actually stand on plastic to ensure that they remain clean. I actually went through that imagination in my mind and thought, that must be horrible to go through that, being afraid to get dirty and such like that. I mean, yeah, I was like that at one point. I used to wash myself a hell of a lot until I was sore on my arms and my legs. And I actually had to say to myself, right, I've got to stop this, because otherwise I'm going to end up, causing a lot more than just sores on my arms. I'm going to cause infections and such like that. Because, yeah, it's nice to be clean. But if you over-clean yourself, you're actually going to do a lot more damage to your body than you think. And I had to literally force myself to come out of that. And I did. It wasn't easy. I still go through those stages where I had to feel the need to wash myself and get myself clean. So that's why I take about an hour or so in the bath, because I like to be clean and such. But I look at it this way. I'm just like to be clean. That's how I look at it as. So I don't look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as me being, super squeaky clean. I'm not as bad as I was when it comes to the clean area compared to a long time ago. But, however, when I told her about these intrusive thoughts in my mind, these compulsive intrusive thoughts that went on and on and on, and then I told her about this voice as well that I heard. But anyway, I'll get back to the voice in a bit. But she told me that it was another variation of OCD. The intrusive thoughts, the dark thoughts, the horrible thoughts and such, the things that scared the living daylights out of me, they were part of like some form of ritual in my mind that it was going through. It was going through a thought process where it was a repetitive stage of constant repeat, 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 and that's when she explained to me that it can be another variant of OCD. So I was like, okay, right, I know roughly what the problem on that area is and such. So she gave me a few counselling tips. She also suggested a few medications to put me on, which actually helped ease down the issue. But later, as I noticed that there was a voice in my mind as well that was going on. Now, I'll explain a bit more about this voice now. This voice has been with me since childhood. I've actually recognised that. It's like the illness, the mental illness, that's been with me since childhood, because I started to make note of when I used to wash my hands a lot, because it went on long before 2006. It went even when I was like 14, 13, because I remember when I was 12 even, I used to wash my hands a lot. I used to be afraid to even just get a bit of mud on me and such like that. I used to talk to inanimate objects and such like that, like the radio or something, you know. Yeah, I know. You can laugh at it, and I would say, yeah, laugh, you know, because even I'm laughing at myself, you know, because it's good to make a joke about that and such. Because sometimes it's good to actually, you know, laugh at a dark situation, you know. Sometimes it's good to make light of it at times. I'm not saying that, oh, you know, go and laugh at somebody suffering or anything like that, or, you know, it's funny when people are suffering. No. I'm actually saying that if you've got a dark situation, you yourself are suffering it, sometimes it's best to laugh it off rather than just to cry about it. Because you know that phrase that you either laugh or cry about it. Now, first of all, I'd like to say there's no harm in crying. I've done enough crying. Trust me, been there, got the t-shirt, cried, you know. I think we all done it. There's no harm in it, you know, there's no shame. But yeah, the reason why I turn my thing into a joke is to not only make myself laugh, but to make others laugh as well. To say, yeah, I'm a nutcase, I talk to inanimate objects because that's what I used to do when I was younger. Yeah, I was a real weird kid and such like that. But truth of the matter is, back then, it was part of the mental illness, and I never knew anything about it, you know. I used to think that these inanimate objects were alive and such like that. But as time went on, I realised that they weren't alive. It was just, you know, my stuff in my head and such like that. I wasn't aware of it at the time that it was a mental illness. But anyway, fast forwarding back to this whole voice thing. Now, this whole voice has been, like I said, this whole voice has been in my head since childhood, and since going to that council thing, it actually got me to realise that I've been suffering from this mental illness a lot longer than 2006. So it's been there with me. But anyway, this voice started off as a real nice voice, you know. It used to challenge me to do better, say, but you can't do this, but you can't do that, and I used to go, but you can, sort of thing. It used to challenge me to do better than that. And yeah, it was a good thing. And it can be a good thing at times, you know. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, so where am I going with this? Well, ever since when things got worse in 2006, this voice became really ratty, really nasty, and absolutely an absolute nightmare. It would actually go and say, yeah, you know what? You actually failed this. You've done this wrong. You're a horrible person. Even though those faults that you have been thinking, they're all true, you know. Every single one of them are true. You know, you're an absolute horrible person. You should actually be locked up and put away. You need to be committed and all that stuff, you know. It will go through such horrible things like that. And it will say horrible words. And it has actually said a lot worse stuff than that. But I'm not going to repeat half of the words that it says on here, because some of it can be very, very, very verbal. Very horrible, you know. And also, some of it won't be appropriate for YouTube either. And I like to say that anyone who goes through this whole thing where they hear a voice in their head constantly pulling them down and such like that, I feel your pain, you know. And I praise you at the same time for going through it and coping with it. Anybody who goes through any form of mental illness, I praise and say, well done for keep going with it, you know. Don't give up the fight on it and such like that. You know, keep going, you know. But anyway, yeah, this voice, yeah, she's been very aggressive, even going saying, you don't have no friends, you don't have no one that cares about you. What's the point in even trying, you know? What's the point in even living? And Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, have I actually thought of suicide and such like that? Uh, would I actually commit suicide? Oh, don't you dare commit suicide, Draco, because otherwise, da 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 da. Now, I'm not saying, calm down. I'm not even considering that, because, first of all, my pride will not let me do no such thing. Yeah, the thoughts do come across in my head. I do think, ink in my mind, and, of those thoughts, but at the end of the day, it's false. I don't actually act on those because my pride won't let me run away from the situation. I'm very prideful when it comes to that, and I say that's a good thing about my pride. It actually stops me from doing stupid things. But not only my pride stops me from doing stupid things, but also the fact that I care for other people, stops me from doing stupid things. But also, I don't like pain. I don't like the thought of killing myself. I like to live on, live the future, live the now. And I like to see what happens in the future and such like that, regardless of what goes on. I like to keep living for the future, because that's what I believe in doing, is going on for the future and such. But even though this voice always constantly says, even now, it's actually saying stuff to me, saying stuff like, what are you doing talking? Shut up. Don't talk. What are you doing? You can't explain for jack about anything. And it will constantly say that. And it's even saying that now. And it's even saying other horrible things, again, which I won't repeat because it's absolutely nasty what it says. But believe me, when I say this thing's an absolute nightmare when it comes to it, it can be a nightmare. But this voice is only amplified more because of these intrusive thoughts. I say the main root of the problem is all these thoughts, what's going on up in my head. I wouldn't say the voice is the root of the problem, because I feel that she is amplified by this whole thing in my head. And yes, the voice is a female voice that I hear in my head. Now, I don't know where the female voice actually stems from. Some people have suggested that it could be either from one of my siblings, or it could be from the bullies, these and that. But the thing is, the bullies that I've actually put up with, most of them have been mainly male bullies. Because I used to have mostly girlfriends, I used to get along with the girls a lot more than the males and such. Which is actually quite funny, actually, at times. Because I look back at myself and thinking, gee whiz, even when I was young, I still got along with the ladies and such. But, I used to joke around about that sort of thing and such. But, yeah, it is a horrible thing to deal with and such like that. And I am quite grateful for the support that I have now, thanks to the support team that I've got. And I'm even actually quite grateful for where I am now. Excuse me. I also thank the people, that's actually been supporting me in my life. Like my dad, he was a big support in my life. He actually helped out big time. And there was one time when I actually talked to him about all these intrusive thoughts and how he dealt with it. He said, do you want to know my opinion about this? Let's say they did happen, he said. So what? What now? Did you do anything illegal? Did you do anything bad? And I was like, well, no. So what did you just do? Did you just thought about it? And I was like, well, not really, but it's just a fault. Oh, in my mind that keeps repeating. And he goes, well, put it this way. Faults are just faults. So what? It's one of those things. Let it go. And I was thinking to myself, well, how could it be one of those things? Because it's a horrible faults to have in your mind. These horrible intrusive faults. But the thing is, he said, faults are just faults. You're not acting on them. You're not doing anything illegal. You're not doing anything bad. So what the hell are you worried about? And that's what he was trying to put into my head to actually make me realise that I had nothing to worry about. And that's what got me thinking in actually, these are just faults. That's all they are, just faults. Oh, there's nothing wrong in thinking. There's nothing wrong in that, as long as one doesn't act on it. And it's fine. So I've thought to myself, all right. So one day I decided to let these faults in and let these faults out. And that way they started to steady off. But at the same time, some of them became a bit too intrusive and a bit too difficult to deal with. And my mind went back to its thing. And it still does from time to time. And it's very difficult. But I will definitely say it is thanks to the medication I'm on that's actually helped me. But also, I'll say mainly for the support of the people around me. My dad being one of those. My friend Danny, who I talk about endlessly about, which you hear in some of my videos at times. And she, bless her heart, she suffers with illnesses of her own kind. You know, she battles her own monsters inside of her and such like that. And yet, when I suffer and such like that, she still pulls the strength to actually help me out and actually get me back on my feet. And she actually gives it her all and says to me that whatever these thoughts going in my mind, whatever they say, it's not true. Whatever the voice says, she can basically do one. And she's been really like that strong rock in my life, you know. She's really actually given me a lot of support. I mean, even in 2016, when my dad ain't long passed away and such like that, I was pretty much in a bit of a state, you know. Even though I wasn't showing it, I was keeping it all in on myself. But she knew, she understood, and she spoke to me. This is before I actually could actually speak to anybody online, because I was a bit of a shy person still. And she actually spoke to me through Skype and said to me, you know, that everything's okay, everything's going to be all right. She knew what I was going through roughly and such, because, you know, she had gone through similar situations with, you know, people that meant a lot to her in her life and such. And yeah, and she has been really such a big, massive rock in my life. You know, she's actually kept me together and that all. And when I say she's like my little sister, she really is like my little sister. She's like the fifth sister I never had, you know, because I've got four sisters. I've got two older ones and two younger ones, and I'm the man in the middle. Literally, I am the man in the middle, and I make a joke about that. But if I was to say if I was to say who was my third little sister, I would definitely say Danny was my third little sister. So she'd be the fifth sister that I never had, and she is the sister from another mother that I call her. She really is 100% been there for me, and I owe her big time for it. Even though she says, "Oh, I owe her nothing," I don't owe her anything, because this is what friends do best. But literally, she's been the best support there is. She's been like my strength in all this. Even she's seen me at my worst, this and that. Even in real life, not just online, but even in real life. When she came down to visit me, I was at my worst is at 1 February time, and she actually got me to pull myself together, and she actually helped me out, even though she was suffering herself. She was having trouble herself, but yet she found the will to actually gather that strength to actually help me out. And when I saw that, that also acted as an inspiration and point for me, and that also got me to think that I got to snap out of it, for not just for me, but for people like her as well. And whenever she's in trouble, I usually use that willpower of my own to snap myself out of my situations to help her, because she means the absolute world to me. And if anything happens to her, you know, or if anyone was to hurt her, let's just say, God forbid, if anybody was to hurt her, because only one person knows my wrath when it comes to hurting her. And I can promise you, if anybody was to hurt her, or if anything was to happen, that would just send me over the line, because she literally does mean a lot to me. I know what you're all thinking. You're probably thinking, "Oh, I should be careful, because that could sound like I'm obsessed with her, or it may end up being to the point where I may become too clingy on her," or something like that. Now, I can understand why you all would say that and such, but rest assured, yes, I'm obsessed with her, but in a good way. I'm not like obsessed in the bad way. I'm not obsessed in a way where it's idiotic. I'm obsessed in a good way where it's like, I want to help her, I want to protect her and such like that. I'm just protective over her, you know. And I owe her big time for what she's done for me. You know, she's helped me through the darkest of times, you know. And I know she would say the same thing about me, that she's helped me through the dark. I mean, I know that she would say the same thing about me, that I've helped her through the darkest time, because she too has suffered her issues, and she too has shown those issues to me. And yeah, she's been afraid that people's going to leave her and such like that, just like I have. I've been afraid of people going to leave me as well, because I had it in the past. We both had it in the past. And the thing is, that's the thing about this whole mental illness thing. It's a very vicious cycle. It can actually do so much horrible things to one. It can actually push people away and such like that. But like I said to her, and I say this to anybody, if people do leave your side because of this mental illness, don't hate them because of it. Because sometimes they don't understand something that they cannot understand, They cannot get a grasp on it, because they are not familiar with it. And sometimes you do get people that are complete nasty so-and-sos that will say, oh, you should be committed because of da da da. Don't listen to those. Don't listen to the negatives. Don't listen to the bullies and such, because at the end of the day, we are human at the end of the day. We go through this stage. It's a blip stage. And you actually know who your true friends are, because the true friends are the ones who actually stand by you throughout this whole entire thing. And sometimes, from time to time, some of those friends may say, I can't do with you right now, I like this, da 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 da. And it doesn't mean that they hate you or anything like that. It just means that they just don't know how to handle the mental illness side. But it doesn't mean that they hate that side of you. It doesn't mean that, that you are a freak or anything like that. And yeah, sometimes you do get some horrible people out there that do turn on you and such and go, you know what, I'm going to leave you because you're just too much to handle, da da da. And they will use that against you. Those are the people that you want to ignore. Those are the people you want to say, right, F them, I'm not going to pay much attention to those. Because those people are not worth being your friends. The ones that are worth being your friends are those who stand by you through thick and thin. And let me tell you something. Danny, she stood by me through thick and thin, and she's worth every ounce of my fibre of being. And she probably said the same thing about me. Now, her boyfriend, Jay, he's actually stood by me through the thick and thin. He's actually helped me through this mental illness as well. He actually explains it better to both me and her, because when me and her go into our little moments, he actually explains it to both of us. And the funny thing is, he's looking after her, but he's also looks after me as well. And I tell him to go on, focus on her. I can take care of myself. Da 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 da. But yet, you know what friends are like. They're stubborn. True friends will stand by her no matter what, and that's what he does. And he actually explained a little bit more about this voice he made. He said, I'm wondering if this voice in your head is kind of like a warning system to protect you in some way. Because sometimes this voice in my head will actually say things about people. Now, a little story about that is, I've had so many... In fact, you've all been through this, where you had people in the past that you thought were your friends, that you even thought were your close friends, and then all of a sudden they just go against you and, they end up being two-faced, end up being absolute horrible people because of something stupid. Or do we use, if you suffer with a mental illness, do we use that against you? Or do we use anything to fault you by and such like that? And in the end, it kind of like puts that image in your mind that you can't trust anyone. But the truth of the matter is, you can trust people. It's just not everyone. But I wouldn't recommend going through that distrust route. Because if you go through that distrust route, it's very hard to break out from. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. Especially if you, especially if you're by yourself and such, that you, trust me on this, you need people at your side. Especially if you suffer with mental illness and such that, because the people at your side are the best support. They're better than any medication. I'm not saying, your medication's bad for you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take your medication, da 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 da. Take the medication that the doctor suggests you to take. Because they do help you at the end of the day. Okay, granted, some of the medication makes you feel really weird. And I mean top of the range weird. I'm not talking about, where you get tired or something like that, because that's a normal side effect. Because obviously you do get side effects where you do sometimes feel a bit tired, sometimes feel a bit hyper, and such and such and such. But if you get like the ones that really make you feel more worse off than what you already have been, and you've been suffering more worse off than what you have been for a long period of time because of these things, then obviously you know what's right for your body. You know what you've got to do. Talk to your doctor about it. See what they can do and such. And that's what I did when the doctors put me on this thing called risperidone, and that set off my anxiety big time. I said, yeah, I'm going back to the other stuff. And they said, oh yeah, but it's the only way to keep the voice quiet. And I said, hey, look, I'll rather keep with this. I'll rather deal with the voice than the anxiety, because the anxiety is absolutely horrible. I'll talk about the anxiety in a bit. But anyway, getting back on point with the whole situation with the voice in my head. Now, Jay, Danny's boyfriend, he actually explained a lot about the voice. He said it could be an early warning system for me, protecting me from like being hurt again, because I have been hurt so many times in the past by people, I've had so many people turn their backs on me and actually turn against me because of something stupid. And it used to be, I used to always think that I'm always wrong, that I'm the bad person, and it has put that image in my head that I'm the bad person. But the truth of the matter is, oh no, I'm not. And I'm a good person, and I'm a better person. Heck, if they use this mental illness as an excuse to actually hate me, then that's their problem, you know. Because, as one friend put it, those who suffer with mental illness tend to be the most human of all because they're more in touch with their emotions. And you know what? I agree with her on that one. But yeah, so this voice would actually ward me off about certain people and go, "Oh, be careful! They could do this, and it's like this person did in the past. You know, you never know. They might actually do this. They might do that. They're gonna hurt you again." Da 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 da. And I used to get annoyed about it, and it did used to set me off on one, and it still does from time to time. The only thing it doesn't have a grip on, the only thing it doesn't have any hold on is on the people that are very close to me, because it knows that I know that those people very close to me are not going to turn on me. People like Danny, people like Jay, those two, even people like Life Giving in, and all those other people, you know, all those amazing people that are at my side, I know, and even this voice in my head knows, won't turn on me. But sometimes it can easily be triggered off by certain things. It could be whether it be a certain event, it could be a certain time of the month. When I say certain times of the month, I mean like, let's say, there are about 4 times in a year where this illness will get worse. February, April, October or September time, one of the two. And then August, I would say. Now, the reason why I said August last, because it used to be just 3 points. But then August came along, and that's the reason why it kicks off more, because 2016 was quite eventful for me, very eventful, because obviously the loss of my dad and other dramatic stuff that happened within the family, which I'm not going to talk about the dramatic stuff that happened in the family, because, you know, that's all personal and such. And plus, I'd like to move on from that. But, yeah, there's always those points in the year where it will get worse and such. But, yeah, as I was saying, Jay said it could be that the voice could very well be like a warning system to alert me. And he said maybe it is still a good thing in some way because it protects you from the bad people. But you just got to make sure that you... what's it he said? I guess you... What's it now? You just got to find a balance, because at some points it gets it right, but a lot of the points it gets it so very wrong, and the points where it gets so very wrong, that's the ones that I need to address. Where the ones where it gets it right, that's fine, because it's, you know, it's like a little warning thing. It's just warding me against some person that could be very well twitchy or dodgy, you know, or shady. That's the best way to put it. And I agree with him on that one. It actually made sense of the voice a lot more, and it made me think, you know what, instead of just fighting this thing, why don't I just try going, okay, you've had your fun, now you listen to me. This is what I say. We're going to do things my way. We're going to work together, and we're going to actually make things better for ourselves. Not just for you, but for ourselves. And yes, sometimes I do have to talk to this voice at times, because even though it's just a figment of my imagination, and I'm well aware of it, but when you hear this voice, it's all too real. And this is what gets me to another thing. I'm wondering if my mental illness is more than just OCD, because I'm pretty sure that the voice isn't part of the OCD package. So that part I'm still trying to work out. Now, some people have actually said, oh, it could be a case of schizophrenia. I know one person suggested it was psychosis, but I was like, no, psychosis is another level. It's different. And I don't feel any traces of psychosis there, because I know the difference between psychosis and other areas. So what one person did, one of the professionals, he actually said, well, let's say you've got psychosis. Let's say we've got on the scales, you've got psychosis on one side, and you've got OCD on another side, and in the middle, it's something else like schizophrenia. And he said another thing that had a voice, and it said that involved the voice quite a lot. I can't remember. It was even on TV at one point. And he said, and I'm feeling that you're leaning towards the other one. That's what he was saying. So I'm hoping that when I do actually see him again, I actually do find the answer to this a little bit more. But yeah, as for the whole mental illness side of things and such like that, and how it's affected my life, it has been quite a dramatic thing. It has affected me in so many ways, and it has done. I would say it has done a lot to me, but I would say it's also made me stronger. It's also made me realise that yes, it's stopped me from doing some of the things I want to do. Like it's prevents me from going out to where I want to go and such. It's actually prevented me from, working and such like that. But I will say it's actually made me stronger in some way because it means that I can adapt to this thing. I can learn to cope, live with it, and such like that. Now, this brings me back to no, this brings me to another subject. So, not brings me back. This brings me to another subject of the mental illness side of things, the cure for it. Now, let me just tell you something. Right now, hear me out and listen to this very carefully because I'm going to say this is in the best way possible. Now I can say this now that there is no cure for mental illness. There is no magic wand. There is no off switch. The meds are there to help, but the guarantee there's no guarantee that they will cure you from it. They won't cure you from the actual mental illness as 100%. I mean, in some cases, it may very well make you feel a lot more better where it is completely off. But in some people's cases, it may very well not cure them at all. It just calms the mind and that. And they probably think, what's the point in taking those meds? Well, the thing is, those meds are there to help support you. They're there to actually help support the mind. Now, it's not about... Now, I will say this. Just because I said there's no cure to this mental illness doesn't mean that it's hopeless. I'm not saying that in it's a hopeless way that there is no cure. Because I can assure you, that's not how I meant it. What I mean by this is, there's no cure to it, but you can live with it. You can cope with it. You can learn to adapt to deal with it better. And that's what the whole entire thing is about. It's not about finding the cure to mental illness. It's about adapting, about living with it, about coping with it, and such and such and such. And that's what I learned. Because a long time ago, I used to think, I'm never going to get better. I'm never going to get to it, to where I want at this weight, because I was getting so angry about it. And in the end, I did actually say to myself, what's the point of me continuing? There is no cure for this thing. I'm never going to be, free from it. But then there was some inspiration words that came to me from someone else that suffered from mental illness and a more stronger variant of a mental illness where it would actually push them to the edge. They said, it's not about finding a cure. It's about finding ways to deal with it, coping with it, and adapting so that you can be happy and live your life. So that you can actually deal with it when it comes to mind, but at the same time, you're living your life and you're actually going, okay, yeah, you said this, whatever, I'm going to go and live my life like so. So basically, what I'm saying is, there is a way to deal with your mental illness. There is a way to cope with the mental illness. It's a matter of finding your coping mechanism. It's a matter of finding your way to adapt to it. Now, I could easily just say, oh, here's how I've done it. Here's how I can do this and that to actually cope with mine. But the truth of the matter is, everyone's illness is different and everyone has different coping mechanisms. But how I dealt with mine is, I just learnt to cope with mine by keeping focused on things like my arts, my stories, gaming even, and so forth and so on. Now, about that, about how I go about with my life and such like that, doing my arts and games and such, what I do, I tend to set myself up a routine for myself where, when I say a routine, I don't set myself up a full-on routine because otherwise I'll be going into another form of OCD where I feel I have to do this, have to do that. So what I do is I set myself up a routine where in the daytime I'll do something a bit constructive like arts, writing and such like that. And then later on about night time, I play games. So that way I don't go back in. Well, so that I don't go into that slouch mode where I become lazy and so hooked on games where I just have nothing in my life but games. You know, so I set myself up a routine to do something constructive in the daytime, sort of like my writings and arts and such. Um, Now, here's a fun fact about my writing. Believe it or not, I've got dyslexia. So that's why you hear me repeat a lot of stuff a lot of times, because what it is, my mind tends to think more quicker before I can actually say it. But also, I suffer with my spelling and grammar. Now, ever since I started writing and such that, it's actually helped me with my spelling and grammar. It's actually helped me construct words a bit more better. I've actually self-taught myself to become better in that area. But however, I do actually thank Nina True for helping me with my writings, because she's actually helped me improve on it, saying, you know what you could do, you could be a bit more descriptive, you could be a bit more this and that. She would actually tell me. And that's the thing I love about her. She's honest about it. She's down to earth about it all. She won't go and sugarcoat things. She's more down to earth. She would actually tell you if something is wrong. And that's what I like. I like honesty. And this is why I'm thankful to people like Nina True, when it comes to that area and such. But yeah, my stories has been like the best getaway from the mental illness, and it's actually helped me cope a lot more better. There are other ways of coping, of course, that I do. Like, for example, I listen to my friends and such like that. Like, for example, Danny, again, she has been that pillar of strength to me. And every time when I hear her voice, it's not hearing the voice of reason. She nullifies this thing and says to me, it's kind of like saying, it's okay, you're going to be fine, you're not a bad person and such. And I would believe her and I still do believe her, because, I know she's right. And she is literally that voice of reason that actually stretches out to me and says, I've got to calm down. And eventually I do. I mean, it was like yesterday. I was having a blue moment yesterday, and my anxiety was also going through the roof. And I actually said to her that I wasn't feeling all that great. But she said to me, because we were playing a game, we were both playing Path of Titans together. She said, you can take a break if you want. I went, oh, no. I'm going to stay focused on this, because, staying focused on you is actually helping me a lot more. And it has actually helped me to actually ease down the tension that goes on in my head, and ease down the things that goes on with my anxiety and such. Now, I will say, a lot of times that when my illness does kick off and such like that, a lot of times it does become very difficult to deal with. I will say that. But the worst case scenario that it does to me, it will cause me to shut down, not talk, not want to know people. It will just go into a full shutdown mode where I just don't talk. It's like if I'm in a zombie state. That's what it's like, I'm just walking on autopilot. And then eventually my whole entire head reboots itself up, and all the files start to come back. Yes, I'm using the computer example as an example on this. It's like it goes through a whole entire reboot. Like, it goes from being a blue screen to all this rebooting system saying, right, putting this together, putting that together, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But however, when my mental illness does get so strongly like this and stuff like that, Danny, she has actually literally busted through that quite a few times, and actually helped me to actually fight it off a lot more easier. And she's actually helped me to cope with it. And this is why I talk highly about her, because she has literally been that pillar of strength. She really has. And also, this is why I also tend to draw images for her and such like that, because she really has been there for me and such, both physically and online wise. She really has literally been there. And I would definitely say to people, she's one of the best friends that anybody could have, not just me, but anyone, because she is an absolute blessing. But as for my mental illness side of things and such, I would definitely say, yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a roller coaster. But at the same time, there is light at the end of the tunnel as well, because I talk about it, how it's been a nightmare, especially for all the times of suffering a bit. But when I look at it, I also see some of the positive outcomes and such like that. Like, there was one time back in, it started in 2018 when I had my real bad anxiety issues. The one thing I noticed my anxiety issue kicking off real badly in August time when I was playing the Forest with Danny and Jay at the time, and I believe Dark Horse was also there. She also goes by the name of Nadine. And I noticed when I was going in a cave of the area, and I was starting to feel a bit claustrophobic. Now, it might be due to that caused my anxiety to kick off, but never have I actually felt that about a game, because usually I would think, oh, it's just a game. I'm into it in a cave in a game. It's no big deal and that. But I was feeling quite, anxious and such, and I was like, ooh, that is weird. But I was on the Risperidone back then. Now, can I just say something before I actually go on about this? Just because I mentioned the name Risperidone and I say that it's did this to me and did that to me, don't think it's going to do that to you, because everybody's body is different to different medications, okay? I like to get that out of the way clear now. But for me, it wasn't that great for me. It did kick off my anxiety. And it only happened to me, all right? So there's no guarantee that it will happen to you, because, like I said, everyone's mind, everybody's body is different. So, if the doctor says try it, give it a shot, see how you feel. But if you do feel, unusually odd, and you feel that it is making you more worse off, then obviously you know your body better, you know your head better. Talk to your doctor about it, all right? And don't be afraid to talk to your doctor about it, because you are entitled to do that. It's your entitlement as a human being. But anyway, get back to on point with the whole anxiety thing. Yeah, as time went on, in November time, it started to get worse. In 2018, that is. And it got so point when my chest was so tight, it actually felt like I was having a heart attack, but I wasn't. I couldn't breathe that well and such like that. My head was going all over the show. My head started feeling lightheaded. My head was just literally just not right in itself, put it that way. And yeah, believe it or not, I got to the point where I was in a childlike state. I got so scared that I couldn't even sleep in my own bed. I was so lucky that I was at my mum's at the time, that she actually looked after me, nursed me back to full health and such like that. And heck, I ended up, believe it or not, because I was in that childlike state, I ended up sleeping in my mum's bed, because I was absolutely terrified of being alone, even in my own room. Now, I know what some of you are thinking when you hear this. You're probably thinking, wait, what? You're old enough to be in your own bed by now, da 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 da. But that's the thing. When you suffer from a mental illness and that, it makes you do the things that even you would think that you would never thought you would do. You never thought you would find yourself doing. And that's what it did with me. It made me into some sort of like child in some way. Yes, I was still with my adult self. I had some sort of form of control on it and that, because I had a grip roughly on it. But there was also points where it was like it was too overpowering, and I just needed the extra comfort, the extra protection, And I will definitely say that my mum really nursed me back to full health during that month and that. And in December time, things started to ease down, but in my head, it was still going through that horrible, horrible situation. And it took literally about, I'll say 3 months altogether, up to February time, to actually get myself back into my supported accommodations again and actually do things by myself. And it took a heck of a long while to get back into the whole thing. And it was halfway in February time, 2019. It was also, again, thanks to Danny and Jay, when they came around at that time, that actually boosted up my strength to actually fight this thing even more and actually overcome it. Yes, my anxiety is still there, but I'm so glad that it's not as bad as it was. So what I'm saying is, just because I may sound better, just because that my anxiety may sound better and such like that, doesn't mean that it can't crop up again and cause those horrible things again. And I'll say it's horrible. Also, about my anxiety as well. The whole reason for me to doing my YouTube videos and such like that, that was also my reason to confront my anxiety, to deal with my anxiety and that. And yeah, it still scares the heck out of me when I'm doing my YouTube videos, you know. Not because of the fact that I'm performing in front of a large audience, but because of the fact that I'm just doing it in general, you know. And my anxiety is like, oh no, I'm exposed, I don't know what to do, oh, help, it's kind of like that, you know. But at the same time, I truck on. It's my way of confronting it. And a long time ago, when I first did it, yeah, I had the mic, but I didn't speak. It was mostly recording myself play the games, get myself into the rhythm of things, and such like that. Now, you're probably thinking, how's just recording yourself playing the games going to set off your anxiety? Isn't it no difference than you just playing the games on the screen and didn't, you could be just recording it and didn't upload it on YouTube? It's still quite anxious at the time because you think to yourself, that you're either going to be playing the game good enough or you're going to be playing the game bad. You think about all those things and you think, am I playing it good enough? Am I playing it worse and such like that? And in the end, I have to just say to myself, it doesn't matter how bad or worse you're playing it. People are not here to see the best gamer. People are here just to see what they want to see. They want to see the real you and such and such and such. And again, I had to not only self-teach myself about that on the YouTube area, but also I did look up the way people like Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, and other people all done their stuff, including Vanos and his crew, how they do their stuff and such. And it actually got me thinking, you know what? They themselves, do all these shenanigans and such like that. And even they, mess up on a game and such like that. But it's no biggie. You just continue on, have a laugh, enjoy yourself and such. And that's exactly what I try and do, But of course, going back to the whole thing, my anxiety was kicking up because it was all thinking that, it wasn't just thinking just due to the fact of me messing up on the game or whether I'm doing better at the game and etc. etc. Because I know I could easily just edit those and just go, right, take out the bad parts, redo the bad parts and make them into a good part. In other words, replay that part and actually do better on that part of the level, if you get my meaning. So it's like me redoing the level again and such. But it wasn't because of just that. It was also due to the fact that, I don't know, it's hard to explain about this whole anxiety thing because it just kicks off at random moments. And it seems to kick off when it comes to public areas a lot more and so forth and so on. But sometimes it can kick off at random, guaranteed. It will kick off at random at times, like yesterday it kicked off. Well, that's due to the fact I was having a blue moment as well. But at the same time, it does kick off at random and you sometimes question, why is it doing that? But however, getting back on subject with the whole thing, with the whole YouTube thing, yeah, as time went on that, I kept on pushing the boundaries. I started to talk on the mic and kept on going with things. At first it started off with, something small and such like that, and then I started pushing it to something a lot more larger, and now I push it to at least no more than 3 hours a week when it comes to me doing my recordings. Now, you may think to yourself, well, hold on, how are you able to produce so many videos on a daily basis when you do just 3 hours a week? Well, that's because most of them are scheduled. Most of them are from other videos and such like that. So most of the times I have them all scheduled up and all put together. And sometimes out of 3 hours worth of videos, I can make about 9 videos or more, depending on the game that I'm playing, out of that. But also, I'm lucky that I've got my friends as well that also help me as well in that area. I mean, you may notice that I play alongside people like Cheetah and Pasta in games like what do you call it, Earth Defense Force and so forth and so on. Or you may hear them in the background when I'm doing my streams and that. That's another way of me exposing my anxiety, because when I've got an audience like them in the background, they actually help me expose my anxiety. I mean, especially people who come up with some of the crazy stuff, like some of the crazy words that, especially like what Pastor would say, or like what Cheetah would say and such like that. And these two really come up with some dark stuff and such like that. And they will test me to the point, but I'm actually glad that they do test me because it helps in every way. It helps me to push that anxiety and such like that. It also helps me to come up with new ways and so forth and so on to, edit and so on. So it's kind of like it helps me to learn. So it's like a learning tool and such like that. But going back to the whole video thing as well, sometimes I do cheat with the videos as well. I often go and when I say cheat, I don't mean as in like, oh, I cheat and take one segment of an old video, put it in with the new ones. No, no, no. What I do is the whole cheating thing is basically, it's not much of a cheat. It's more of like I said, if I'm doing 3 hours, I can make about 9 videos out of that 3 hours. And what I'll do is like, let's say I've got an hour video, I'll cut that down from like, take 20 minutes of it, put that up for one day, take another 20 minutes, put that up for another day, and etc, 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 and it becomes like 3 videos in some way. So that's my way of saying that, yeah, in some way I cheat. But however, I do also sometimes make sure that certain things are not in it to, like, certain areas are not in it, like, to bore people or anything like that, or anything that's got anything to do with copyright things and that. I mean, I know I've had a few copyright claims on my Final Fantasy videos, and obviously I had to give them a little trim here and there and so forth and so on. But either way, you get the gist. But yeah, I use the YouTube platform as my way, as my tool to actually expose my anxiety, and it has helped, and it has actually helped big time, and it's got me to think ahead of myself as such. But not only that it exposes my anxiety, it exposes my dyslexia as well, because I'm not sure if you noticed in my videos that I do repeat myself a lot. I do stumble on my words a lot. Even in this video, you probably might hear me stumble on my words a lot. You might hear me repeat myself a lot. That is due to my dyslexia process. And as I go along, I actually learn from that and actually go, right, I've got to actually try not to repeat this, not to do this, not to do that, and so forth and so on. So it actually helps, But yeah, there are many ways of trying to push your anxiety, to try and push your mental illness and such like that. Sometimes it could be through art, sometimes it could be through writing, sometimes it could be through doing content creation, sometimes it could be through other things. And also sometimes you have to push yourself to go outside and even go to these places that you're even afraid to go to, and that sometimes you have to try and conquer your fear at times and such. And the thing with mental illness, it is one big mountain. It's a mountain to climb, and you've got to keep climbing that until you reach that goal. And just remember, no matter how many times you tumble, you will get back up again, and you will start climbing that mountain again. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, you will get to that goal eventually. You will get to that goal that you want to get to. It may take a while, it may take time, it may take a lot of hard work, but you will get there in time. So I will say to you, people who suffer with mental illness, don't give up. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Set up multiple goals for yourself. Even set up halfway points, for yourself, so that way you can take a break here and there and so forth and so on. Think of it as one big mountain that you're trying to climb, and that you've got multiple goals that you want to reach, and you want to reach to that big top goal. I mean, I already got a top goal of my own I want to reach and such like that. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure you all got your own top goals that you want to reach to. So that's what I have to keep doing with myself, is reach up to, make goals for myself to reach up towards, to work towards. And yeah, it takes a lot of energy out of me, but at the end of the day, it's all worth it. But yeah, that's that's me talking about my mental illness and such like that. And yeah, it ended up being a lot longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be about 30 minutes, but no, it ended up being about an hour or so. But yeah, but I hope you actually enjoyed what I said so far and got some form of understanding of what I said so far. And if this helps you in some way, then that's great, But remember, no matter what you suffer with, whether it be mental wise or anything, there's always hope at the end of the tunnel, There's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's always that hope there. It's not impossible to reach a happy ending, because there's always a happy ending for all of us there. Yes, we have to work towards it, and sure, it can be hard work at times. But remember, if we keep doing it, even if it's little by little, we will get there in time. All I say is, be patient, but above all, love yourself, be awesome to yourself, and make sure to care for yourself as well. Until next time, you'll take it easy, and Peace out.